What are some NSFW secrets about the military? When I checked into Fort Bragg in 2011, the very first thing I was told in the in-processing brief was "Welcome to Fort Bragg. We have the most male-on-male rapes and sexual assaults in the nation." The very first thing they told me. I mean, it is Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg murder swamp. You have a lot more going on there that we've learned in recent years. Drug smuggling, that beheading, at least you made it out okay. Suicides are at times covered up. Yeah, my brother shot himself a week after coming home from Afghanistan, and officially it was an accidental discharge of a service weapon. Which I guess was nice, as my family still got his military compensation. He was one of the first in of many suicides for on that war. I believe they have far outpaced combat losses now. And sometimes rape, a beat up face and being shot in the head from your non-dominant hand is classified as a suicide. Edit. Actually, I'm not going to not say her name. She was Lavina Johnson, and the fact that this has happened without any repercussions speaks volumes of what the US Army in particular will cover up, and shamelessly so. It's fucking disgusting that this has happened and too few know her name and her story. Further reading and sources enclosed. https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/death_of_Lavina_Johnson. Also, Vanessa Guillen. https://www.netflix.com/title/814605114 and tricket equals 137472225 and t equals cp and vlong equals n and clip equals 816317880. She was raped, murdered, chopped up, and burned on American soil by American soldiers, and the Army worked overtime to cover it up while her family refused to give up, demanding answers and making it a public issue all the way to Washington, D.C. to get answers and pass reforms. https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/murder_Vanessa_Gil%C3%A9N#3A%7E%3 a text %3D the_murder_Vanessa_Gil%C3%A9N%2 Canother_soldier%2C_Aaron_David_Robinson. Uprov equals fla1. You have to show your asshole to one of the oldest doctors on the planet before they let you join. I think it is a commitment thing. When I did this, one of the questions on his list was, "Do you drink?" I said no, my family has a bad history with alcohol. Dude sat his clipboard aside and had a good 10-minute heart-to-heart with me about his own family struggles and how abstaining was really the best path in our situation. Then picked his clipboard back up and jumped right into, "Okay, I need to see your anus." I briefly tried to get my pilot license. This involved a special physical to qualify. You start by disrobing and donning the typical hospital gown. Partway through, I'm laying on the table. The doctor asks me to roll on my side. Could feel/sense him just kinda giving a good once-over from behind me to make sure things looked right, I guess. Then he says, and I'm required to do this, then gently spreads my ass cheeks. And that was the end of the physical. I can't help but wonder, what disqualifying symptoms does that identify? Like things are looking okay. Then ass cheeks get spread, and suddenly, I don't like this at all. You can't be a pilot. Dr. Condom, yes, that was his real name, at Fort Jackson, South Carolina in MEPS. This was like 10 years ago, but I remember him so vividly. Dude was at least 137 years old and had the thickest Russian accent I've ever heard. Calling a product military grade is not the compliment that most think it is. I love talking to gun guys who brag about having military grade components on their AR, and while I never served, I know enough servicemen to know that's not synonymous with precision engineering. It's a buzzword to get all the cosplayers to buy those parts. Military grade is synonymous with cheapest that met the specifications. The specifications are not high. Specifications: 1. Make it heavy AF. 2. Make it cheap. I don't know how much of a secret it is, but if you're in the military or married to the military, the odds of you being cheated on sexually, or being the cheater, increase drastically compared to your civilian peers. This military is kind of a small world socially. Example: one of my troops, Troop A, cheats on spouse with another military person, Troop B. Troop B has a guilty conscience and confessed to Spouse B, also a military member. Spouse B is upset, and when the commander inquires, Spouse B tells the commander, who is the parent of Spouse A. Commander calls Troop A and tells them they knows about the affair and that Troop A needs to tell his spouse or they will. Isn't adultery also subject to UCMJ? My husband was in for 29 years, and over the 30 years we've been married I have seen and heard about this so many times. Both sides. It seems like we have been the exception and not the norm. Even people you would never suspect. Deployment seemed to be exceptionally bad for this. I remember very soon after we were married my husband was deploying for 9 months. His work did a going away thing for him and everyone was talking about Jody and I had no idea who Jody was. I asked him later and he told me. It kind of made me mad because all these people were telling him I was going to cheat on him while he was gone. We were younger then and I guess I was naive. Another few deployments and I found how prevalent it is. It's shitty on both ends. That is classified. Go to Discord. Or a Wart Hunter forum. Any Wart Hunter forum. I still love this. War Thunder deep breath, do not send US classified documents. This is not reverse psychology. For real, I'm running out of jokes about this. We cannot use them. It's sort of turbo illegal, and the people posting them can get into serious trouble. The amount of waste, fraud and abuse is exponentially more than you think. It still blows my mind that we just shoot all our extra ammo at the end of range day, to make sure we get the same amount of ammo next time. Billions have probably been wasted on that, and that's a small thing. The whole we need to use X up so we don't get shorted when we need it next time is such an insane level of bad management. I heard a story about a nuclear Navy procurement officer. Needed a few blankets of lead for shielding, so he ordered 20. Was a bit surprised when it showed up to find out it wasn't 20 blankets he ordered, but 20 tons of blankets. So somewhere, they had 20 tons of those, minus 20 of them, just there. Said he sent a mass message that if any other vessel needed any, there was almost 20 tons waiting at whichever port it was. I don't know if this qualifies as NSFW or is unique to the military, but when you are required to provide a urine sample it must be witnessed by another service member. So on any given day, since it's random, you might be called to pee into a cup while another person stares at your junk. I once got called for urinalysis on a day when I had terrible diarrhea. The observer had to watch me shit just in case I was also able to pee in the cup. I was dehydrated so it took a long time to finally pee. In addition to watching me shit liquid, this dude had to look at my dick 3 or 4 different times. It was a bad day for both of us. Edit. Thanks for the awards. Never thought my top comment would be about shitting during urinalysis. I always laughed at how random piss tests were. Always seemed that anyone coming back off of leave got randomly selected. I remember I came back from visiting my family in Colorado and got selected. No big deal as I didn't do any drugs, but the guy watching me was making small talk and said, "Man, it's pretty cold in here, huh?" I agreed as it was cold and we were in an old building in the middle of winter. It wasn't until I left the building when it dawned on me. That son of a bitch. If it makes you feel any better, my post-vacation meat gazer insisted on basically resting his chin on my shoulder and apparently eating garlicky ass shrimp for breakfast is a normal thing in his world. I was sure I'd puke in the cup before I pissed in it. Truly one of the most absurd situations I've ever found myself in, and also how I inadvertently found out that holding your breath will alleviate stage fright. Don't forget that you find out you need to piss in a cup right after you've had your morning pee. Cue everyone chugging down water. People be fucking. Like, all the time. Deployment wives/husbands are a thing. Also, people play a lot of ridiculous pranks and pull a lot of silly stunts. On my last deployment we had a phantom shitter. Just some guy, or girl, they never got found out, who would shit in random spaces. I had a friend who was a really dark-skinned black dude. At night, when we were only running red lights, he'd hide under the stairs to the boat locker right in front of the door to sonar 1 and wait until someone was nearly face to face with him and then he'd smile. All you'd see is this perfect set of red teeth all disembodied like the Cheshire Cat. Freaked me the fuck out first time he got me with it. One time we were in pretty rough seas and the ship was rocking pretty hard. Now, on the main deck there's only 3 hallways that run across the ship. The longest one was midship and was where our chow line was. People were sliding up and down that quay with the rocking of the ship. It was pretty wild. What we sonar techs would do is get in our trunk, imagine an elevator shaft with a ladder that connects 4 levels, and time a jump so that when the ship crested a wave and if you timed it right you could jump up to the next room. My LPO made it like 3 floors once. If the ship has a swim call, meaning everyone can swim in the ocean while at sea, there'd be a couple of people with rifles on shark watch. If there is an ice cream social for no reason you're going to get bad news. Except for when they finally got Bin Laden. Edit. Forgot to add that I went to electronics school with a guy whose last name was Sample. So he was literally Seaman Sample. One of my postdoc positions was at a big name university and we did a lot of experimental work, so we had a staff of engineers, machinists, etc. on staff full time. Our data acquisition guy was a former electrician on a nuclear sub. I swear to God that guy was a fucking magician. Now most people in my field have some basic electronic skills. I can build a circuit and solder pretty darn good. My stepdaughter came to me with her instrument column from an early 80s VW cabriolet that basically wouldn't do shit. Solder joints broke. It's a known issue. I took one look and knew I could never do it. Maybe I'd get it halfway working if I was lucky. I took it to our guy and he sat there with me bullshitting while he was redoing the solder. Don't know if he was removing old solder or just remelting. It took 10 minutes and he was only half paying attention while he did it. The thing worked perfectly and I got major brownie points. I miss that guy. One sale, we had a phantom shitter, no idea who it was. Got 3 or 4 good ones in some main flats. The XO got pissed and called all hands to the flight deck. He reams us out for the better part of half an hour. Bullshit for me because I'm on the mids watch. 2 a.m. middle of the Pacific. XO rocks up to the bridge, asks me why I called him. I didn't call him, so I have no idea. We go back and forth for about 30 seconds, me clueless, and then we both just kind of stop. I'll never forget the look on his face right before he booked it back to the cabin. Phantom shitter got his pillow and never struck again. Greater than we go back and forth for about 30 seconds, me clueless, and then we both just kind of stop. I'll never forget the look on his face right before he booked it back to the cabin. Phantom shitter got his pillow and never struck again. Hardest I've laughed at something on Reddit in a long time. So, thank you for this. A friend of mine in the Special Forces told me since they are out in the field a lot, they get plenty of ticks, and while you can inspect yourself fairly good, you can't inspect everything, so they pair up and spread their cheeks, and your mate has to stare into your anus to check you for ticks in there. Not very glamorous. Holy fuck, I didn't realize I could have a relevant story about this. I used to serve with this super fat dude, let's call him John. John never got promoted in the National Guard because he was extremely overweight. Towards the end of his contract, he was knowledgeable but he still couldn't pass height and weight standards and so was a PFC and everyone dismissed him. I was new and knew John had knowledge so I stuck with him. One day in the field, the dude says, "Hey man, can you do me a solid?" And then proceeded an event in which he pulled down half his trousers and spread his fat ass a bit while I checked for ticks, in the dark, with a flashlight. So like I really had to look. Was it a mole? Dirt? Shit? No. Indeed, John had a fucking tick smack in the middle of his ass line between two of the fattest ass cheeks a man could have. Edit, I hate you guys for making me remember this event but no, I didn't remove it for him. I think either another dude did with a knife or John himself contorted his fat self into somehow removing the tick from the inside of his ass crack. We didn't have a medic on the team to remove it. Typhies lol. Apparently straight Marines do gayer shit than people who are actually gay. We had Marines on my ship, they told us this crazy prank they pulled where they all got naked and joined one of them on the shower and soaped them up, and all I could think was, this is the very most gay thing I have ever heard. Marines are the gayest straight guys you'll meet, sailors are the straightest gay people you'll meet. Doc just waiting for a heat case with his mouth lube thermometer. We had female soldiers committing their own prostitution. They had a code and everything. If a girl at the coffee shop was wearing PTs and a pink PT belt she was down to fuck for money. One or more of these girls contracted a disease and next thing you know there is a base-wide epidemic and I still remember a commissioned doctor coming into the break area screaming, "If I have to look at one more fucking dirty dick I'm quitting, fuck it." This is very common in the Navy on cruises. Women would sell off during the cruise making bank the whole time. Had a buddy who knew one who got caught as she was crossing the quarterdeck and another female had snitched on her and they checked her bags as she left the ship for contraband. She had to explain why she had $30,000 cash in her sea bag. Happened on all my cruises. One ring was run by supply department and used empty staterooms. The code word was asking a guy if the ship's store had any Newport lights, which it never did, then he'd make a call and give you a stateroom key. Another one was ran literally in a female berthing and one of the girls would walk you in like you were doing an inspection. Crazy times. Thule Lab in Greenland. I've never been but deployed with a maintenance tech who was. He told me there were only 2 women on the base, and one of them monetized the opportunity. She told him winters were easier to make money because the constant darkness created more hiding places. The amount of unreported injuries to doc or to command, thus leading to lifelong issues. On the other hand, if you do go to doc about an issue, you'll be berated and told you are lying about an issue to get out of duty/PT. Was ignored and told I was lying about back/sciatic issues for months by doc. Jump chain of command, one of my captain, had an MRI/raise of my lower back, and a month later had a microdissectomy of my L5. Damage was done, medically ineligible to re-enlist, 7 years later, and have to get a spinal fusion due to severe disc degeneration and chronic sciatic pain and permanent nerve damage. Your medic failed you. I believe my guys no matter what, even if they're trying to just get out of PT I'm gonna hook the homies up. Absolutely he failed me, along with others. After multiple complaints to command, he was asked to retire. Instead of being held accountable, he got retirement. I got told not to report my broken tailbone, because what's the doc going to do? Give you some painkillers and a donut and send you home? Here's a pillow and some Tylenol, tough it out. And hashtag X200B. I still can't sit for more than an hour at a time without my ass hurting. Sometimes the guy that administers the drug test is the same one that you get the drugs from. I was our unit's drug test guy. I smoked weed every day because I obviously would not drug test myself. I was also really good at it so they wouldn't give the job to someone else. I could get our tests done and completed without mistakes in like 1/5 of the time of my predecessor. Didn't sell drugs, but I've given plenty away. Your avatar makes this comment seem like you're the one doing that. It's literally just high school with guns. No one in the military, even in the movies, seemed like they grew out of their high school mentality. One sailor interviewed for the documentary Carrier just sort of sighed and said, "This is just a big ass, floating high school." It's my favorite part of that doc. Don't let your daughters join any branch of the military. Just, don't. Even sons aren't safe. I'm a man and the mod of /r/regret joining. I remember one piece of shit repeatedly told me he was going to rape me. I kept telling him I would stab him if he tried, but he acted like it turned him on. He never attempted to rape me, but it's pretty fucking disgusting. He was from West Virginia and looked like his parents were siblings. I find it interesting that people frequently say not to let their daughters join so they won't get raped, yet are completely okay with their sons being around rapists. The food boxes that come in literally say for prison and military use only. It's usually marked as not for DOC. No one I spoke to has ever seen a package say it was marked for both. Sailors love to cling to this one and complain that the meat we get is so terrible they wouldn't even give it to prisoners. No, it's because they're T-bones, and they don't want the prisoners making shivs out of the bones. Source: 3 CS1 buddies with over 30 years between them. My husband was watching a documentary with people in prison and was like, "Hey, we have the same blankets on the ship." That is why I bought a nice blanket in Korea forever ago to replace the army green crap blanket. 24 years later, I still have it, and it's still wonderful. No ear protection on the range? Just shove your fingers in your ears. Also, safety squints work if you're fast enough. Fun fact, if you're in sudden need to plug your ears from loud sounds, don't put your fingers in your ear hole. You might flinch at the loud noise and break some inner ear bones. It's much safer to cover the entire ear with the palm of your hand flat against the side of your head. Works better too for muffling emo. Does anyone actually put their finger directly in their ear? I've always pushed my tragus, apparently that's what it's called. https://cdn.britannica.com/04/143040501A5E3289/structures outer ear.jpg, firmly against my ear hole when I plug my ears. Swingers exist on every single base in the world. In Sigonella they would use different boxes of detergent in the windows to show what they were into and what age range they were looking for. Patrolling the housing area became much more interesting when you see who lives in the houses and what they're into. I'd be the clueless person accidentally announcing all sorts of kinks by mistake. Back in the before time, San Diego used to have massive sex parties. Not vanilla couple swap, either. A lot of gay and bi singles just DTF with bi couples mixed in. Officers, enlisted, doctors, nurses, corpsmen. It was wild. During DADT that was risking your career. In Germany, if you saw a red light in base housing, that meant the spouse was allowed to cheat, but if they had a pink light, that meant they liked to have threesomes. You have a higher chance of shooting yourself than someone else. Veteran suicides are 4 times higher than military casualties in war. You are 4 times more likely to die coming home from war than being in it. They don't teach you that. https://www.militarytimes.com/news/yourmilitary/2021/06/21/4 times as many troops and vets have died by suicide as in combat. Study finds in basic. You sound like a weapons instructor berating someone. The IT is far less cutting edge than you think. What are you talking about? There's not a virus alive that could target the Korean War era machinery I used while I was in. You had to keep out literal bugs from seeking warm tubes. This was protecting us in the 90s. When I was in the Marines, the computer/networking gear we used was laughably out of date. Like, we got army hand-me-downs that were already a decade old. Law oots of chlamydia. My unit in Okinawa had the highest STD rate for the island. I was so glad I wasn't a part of any of that. I was stationed in Yokosuka. They warned us about Okinawa before we visited. Let's all clap for our boys in boots. If you join the military, you will be affected by suicide. We had 3 during training, 1 on the boat, 1 I had to tackle, not my office, because he was slashing his wrists. Then you get out and it keeps happening. I've lost 8 shipmates in the last 7 years after I got out. It's nuts. My first encounter with it was the guy who tried to jump off a water tower while we were lined up to give back all the gear we were issued in basic. 3 days to graduation, and this guy tried to take a header. The drill sergeants bundled him up and took him to the hospital. The geniuses there put the kid in a top-floor room with no supervision. Yep, he became one with the parking lot that night. I'm curious what you think are the main reasons for the suicides? There's a lot of reasons. 1. Military life is hard on the best of days. 2. Lack of sleep makes people's mental stability break down. 3. If you're lucky, you have a close group of friends in your squad/company, but often you are spending most of your life with people you tolerate at best or actively despise at worst. 4. They make a very big deal about suicide awareness and prevention but punish you if you report to anyone that you're feeling suicidal. 5. Any sign weakness is used against you. If you admit that you're feeling sad, you'll be told to suck it up or bullied or actively harassed. If you say that you're tired, we're all tired is the best you'll get. 6. As mentioned a lot, cheating is rampant in the military. 7. All the sexual assault. I could go on and on and on, but I believe those to be the big ones.